friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenvoss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in today. I am excited to share with you some different ways of using chamomile than you might be used to. I will tell you some classic recipes, which I'm sure you will probably know, but maybe some spins on it, and also some little known ways of using this plant. So if you grow chamomile in your garden like I do, and you have like an abundance and you're like, well, besides just making a tea, what else can I do with my chamomile? Well, I will give you some recipes and some really easy ways to use it. Before I dive into today's content, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Your subscriptions help more people to find me and more people to learn about the beauty and the art of herbal medicine. I am at, I think, 7.25 thousand subscribers. So thank you to everyone who's already subscribed. I'm trying to get to 10,000 by the end of this year. And so every subscription helps me meet that goal. So thank you. And also, if you want to like this video, share it. Always love to see that and love your comments as well. Another thing I wanted to mention before we go into talking about chamomile is that I am hosting a few workshops this fall. In September on the 14th, I will be hosting a garden gathering here in Minnetonka, Minnesota. If you want to come learn about making herbal infused oils and practice body oiling with a group of other people, I would love to have you join. You can go to my website, skyhouseherbs.com. I also will be teaching my year one herbal apprenticeship course starting in January. You can learn more about that course at the website or on the website, and I will include a link as well in the description notes. And lastly, I am teaching a workshop on making herbal oxymels, which is a really old recipe that combines honey and apple cider vinegar for extracting and making really soothing medicines for the respiratory system, for the throat, great for the autumn, great for cold and flu season. So if you want to join me at Tonkadale in Minnetonka, Minnesota, right outside of the Twin Cities, please register for that. I'll include a link to Tonkadale's website also. All right, so let's talk about chamomile. Let's talk about what it is, how to use it. And one of my favorite ways, I remember I was watching some podcast or listening to some podcast, and the guy called it chamomile. And I just laughed so hard. He was like, today we'll be talking about chamomile. And I was like, chamomile? What the heck is that? That's this new herb. And then I was like, oh, he's saying chamomile. So now in our house, whenever somebody says chamomile, someone else will say chamomile. So anyway, you can now borrow that, and that you can have that little trick up your sleeve next time you talk about chamomile or chamomile. So chamomile, we're talking today about German chamomile. This is in Latin. The Latin name is Matricaria chamomilla, also Matricaria Requita. Those are both considered to be German chamomile. So either of those work. We're not talking about Roman chamomile, although they are very similar. I have a lot more clinical practice using the German chamomile. That's what I grow. It's what I use with my family. It's what I use with my clients. So that's what we're talking about today. This herb has a long history of use. I do have a video on my Herb of the Month series. If you want to listen to like a whole breakdown and science and learn about this plant and all of its medicinal and clinical values, I'll have a link in the description as well to that. I also wanted to mention that when I talk about this herb, we are talking about the flowers. So that with every single plant in herbal medicine, we have different parts that have different compounds and have different uses. Some plants only have one medicinally used part, others have all the parts, and they all work slightly differently. With chamomile, really the medicinal part that we use in clinical herbal medicine is just the flower. And the reason for that is that all of the sesquiterpenes, volatile oils, flavonoids, everything that we want as our medicine is in the flower, and it's in the fruit of the flower, which if I take one out, the fruit of the flower is this yellow part in the middle. It's kind of squishy, spongy, fruity. So that is the medicinal part I use in my practice. It's what we're going to be talking about today. Also present in the flowers, I think I mentioned flavonoids, which are very anti-inflammatory, and the sesquiterpenes, which are the oils or terpenes, and then specifically chamazoline, which is chamazoline is a terpene that it has a kind of a bluish, azul or bluish color to it. And it's one compound that is super anti-inflammatory, very, very good for pain, inflammation. And we'll talk about ways that you can use that in these 5 little different formulas. And it also contains flavonoids like quercetin, which is really good for allergies and any sort of histamine related response. So I wanted to give you all of that first before we go into the 5 ways to use it. That way your brain can start thinking about, okay, flowers, different compounds, and now what's the best way for me to apply this for my situation, or maybe if you're a clinician, to working with clients or working with other people. So I'm going to start with the most boring one. Or not, I mean, it's not boring to me, but the most classically used way of working with chamomile is as a tea. And so I really like to brew infusions. This is my little teapot. I probably bought it maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it's held up. I'll include a link. I bought it on Amazon. It's by a company called Fort Life. It has a really big screen tub or strainer, which I really love because I can I can put lots of herb in here, and it strains really nicely, and then I can pour it. It holds about 2 cups of water, which for me is perfect for a single serving. If you are making big overnight infusions or if you're serving lots of people, this might not be the best situation, but for just one time use, it's great. So what I would do for a tea, and this is how I usually brew it, is I'll do 2 to 4 teaspoons, depending on how strong you like your tea, depending on how much herb you have, how sensitive you are. That's really important. Some people are built like bulls, they're very hardy, and it takes a lot of energy to shift their physiology. It takes a lot of plant material. These are the people that can take like 2 to 5 aspirin and they're like, oh, I kind of feel it. Or they can take substances, but it takes a lot of a substance for them to feel anything. And then there's other people that are way more sensitive, where they can just take 1 aspirin, or they can just take a little bit of cold medicine and they're like, whoa, I can feel it. Or a little bit of herbs and they're like, oh, okay, I can feel a shift. So that's why I like to give the range of 2 teaspoons to 4 teaspoons. So you can kind of play with, well, which dose would be most relevant for the person that you are working with. And body size matters too, right? Less body weight or size, less herb you probably will need. So I like to add my herbs right into here. I pour my hot water. I let it steep about 7 to 10 minutes. More than 10 minutes, it's going to start to get really bitter. You can still drink it. There's nothing wrong with it. Just know that the taste, you'll start to get more of the drying tannins and more of those bitter compounds that start to come out. But if you like it to be very light and flowery and more of like a honey flavor, a little sweeter, let it steep closer to 7 minutes. And then you'll just pour it into a mug. This is my favorite way to take chamomile if you're having issues with anxiety, restlessness, digestive, like if you get butterflies in your stomach as part of your anxiety pattern, then chamomile tea is really good. You can drink it any time of day. You can drink it in the morning, afternoon, in the evening. I generally recommend that you try not to drink teas about starting an hour before bed, just because otherwise you'll be up going to the bathroom. But pretty much you can drink it throughout the day, and it's really, really good for calming the nervous system and helping your body recover from stress. Another thing about the tea that's really nice is one of the indications that Matthew Wood taught me when I was studying with him is that chamomile is good for babies of all ages. And so when he says this, he's basically saying kids typically tend to whine and cry, and they're very, very vocal about what they need. And so one of the specific indications I look for when I'm working with clients, and I think to myself, oh, this would be a great person to meet and to hook up with chamomile is when, and it can be, a child of any age, a baby of all ages, but just someone who's very, very vocal. And, I don't want to say like they're whiny, but they just might tend to need to vocalize and talk through their problems. And they're more verbose with how they express themselves, especially when it comes to things that are troubling them or bothering them. So this sort of like whining, but just venting, like people who have to vent a lot, they're like, I'm gonna vent. I'm like, here's some chamomile. So if that's a pattern that you relate with, then chamomile as an ally is a really great idea. So tea is great. If you are feeling like, gosh, I just don't have time to brew teas, well, you should, because if you buy like one of these little guys, it truly is does not take much time. But I know that for some people, brewing a tea is just not an option. So you can take it in a tincture form. Tincture form is an alcohol-based extract, usually in a small dropper bottle like this, and you can take 2 to 4 droppers full as needed, just to kind of take the anxiety down, take that nervous, frenetic talking down, and to balance any nervous energy in the stomach and to help with sleep. So that's number one. Number two is taking a bath in chamomile. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever tried that? Oh my gosh, it is luxurious. So chamomile has such nice aromatics. It's flowery, but it's also a little musky and earthy. And the name manzanilla, and which means apple in Spanish, is one of its names. And it also, the word, what was it? Earth apple. So one of the Latin names for this plant is the earth apple, and it has a sort of earthy, appley, like a very ripe apple, like right before apples go to the cider mill to be made into apple cider, when they're really like, if you've ever been to an orchard and you can smell the sweetness of the apples rotting on the earth, that's kind of the smell of chamomile, and it's sweet and it's good, and it's very relaxing and grounding. So what I do when I take a bath, if I'm feeling any of those feels and I just need a little bit of comforting, I also think about chamomiles being a very mothering herb. The Latin name mater caria, mater means mother or womb or the matrix. So the mater, mother, like it just envelops you in this very supportive, very mothering energy. And then caria means to rock or to carry. And so it's like this mother gently rocking you. And I love that image. And taking a bath in this herb, it gives you that feeling. So what I do is I'll take maybe about a handful of my dried chamomile, and then I have this muslin cloth bag. Now I know it looks dirty, it's not, it's just stained from making tinctures, but I bought maybe a pack of 10 of these, and you can use them for making nut milk. So if you make almond milk or oat milk, you just put them in and you squeeze the milk out after you blend it with water. Maybe I'll do a video on how to make your own nut milks, but it's really easy. But I use this particular one for baths and tinctures. So I'll just put a handful of my herbs in. I use the little drawstring at the top. I'll cinch it closed. And then I'll sometimes wrap this around and pull it through so that the herbs don't get out. And then I'll just let this soak in the bath. So I have the hot water going. Sometimes what I'll even do is tie this around the faucet and let the hot water just flow over the bag. And then this is an important part, is that you do have to squeeze it out. And you'll see, it's like, you're basically bathing yourself in an herbal tea, and you'll squeeze and you'll see that nice dark kind of golden color come out of the bag, fill the bath. That aromatherapy is going to help your nervous system relax. And some of the extra benefits of taking a bath in chamomile is that it's very good for eczema, psoriasis. It's really good for hives. If you have young children or babies, it's perfectly safe to give them a chamomile bath, which will help with sleep and colic and also help with diaper rash. So it's really good for any sort of rash, inflammation, irritation of the skin. Use this as a bath as well. The nice thing about using the bath, and this is from lots of experience, if you just put the herbs in the bath, it's beautiful, right? You've got all these beautiful flowers in the bath, but then you also have flowers in your hair you got to find. And then when you finish the bath and you strain it, you don't want the flower material to go down the drain because it will clog it. And then you have to clean up the sides of where it's stuck as the water drained. And then it's not very relaxing to have to clean up herbs scattered around a dry bathtub. So it's going to save you time and energy and stress by putting it in a bag. And then all you have to do when you're finished with the bath is take this outside, just compost it in a bush, under a tree, in your own compost pile. And then you can turn the bag inside out, rinse it, throw it in the washing machine, and then it's good to go. And so these can be reused for many, many different things. So that is number two. Oh, another reason to use a bath is if you have chicken pox, which I know like they don't. I had chicken pox when I was a kid. Um, it was like still a thing. I think now they do vaccines for them. So like not, like I remember there being chicken pox parties where parents would bring their children together to get them exposed. So then that way, they would all get through their chicken pox together. I remember for me, I got chicken pox. I was in, I think it was fourth grade. No, it was sixth grade, and I had perfect attendance. I hadn't missed a single day of school. And on the last day of school, I woke up with chicken pox, and I was so sad because I wanted to get that piece of paper that showed like 100% completion of that school year. So one day away. But one of the things that my mom did is she would give me a bath in oats. That's really a popular remedy for chicken pox and things like that. But you could use chamomile too. So you might even use chamomile and oats together in a bag like this, squeezing it out into the water and then infusing your body in the water. All right, number three is eye compress. And this is one that I've used with my kids with pink eye or conjunctivitis. Pretty much they're the same thing. And you can have bacterial or you can have viral conjunctivitis, both of them. Chamomile is a wonderful herb to use. So this is how you use it for any sort of eye problems. Also, you can use it if you have red eyes from allergies. Here's now the one thing that you want to be careful of. If you have an allergy to chamomile, if you have like sensitivities to chamomile or to other plants in the Asteraceae family, like don't have for your first time ever using chamomile, put it on your eyes, do like a patch test. So let me tell you how to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing that I told you with brewing a tea. So I would do about 4 teaspoons of chamomile, 2 cups of water, let it steep for maybe about 7 to 10 minutes. It's pretty much the same thing. You're making a little bit of a stronger tea. And then you're going to take a cloth. So you'll pour the tea into like a bowl. That's what I do. And then I take a cloth. This is just like I bought a bunch of these on Etsy. They're alternative paper, like reusable paper towels, and they come in a roll. It's really, really nice. So we use these in our house for paper towels and just for various things. But they work really well for eye compresses. So I'll dip this into the warm fluid and then just place it over the eyes and let the eyes soak. And 2 nights ago, my daughter, Virginia, my 8-year-old, she woke up in the middle of the night. Well, it was like an hour after she fell asleep. And she was like, Mom, my eye hurts. It's like throbbing. It's like I can feel my heartbeat in my eye. And I was like, oh no. It's like, you have your first day of school tomorrow. Like, this isn't good. And she was starting to get a sty right there. So I brewed a tea with chamomile and I added a little bit of calendula flowers. So equal parts, like maybe 2 teaspoons chamomile, 2 teaspoons calendula flowers. So, made a tea, 10 minutes, strained it, put this on, and then I added a few ice cubes because I didn't want to burn her skin, obviously. But then I applied this to her eye and I had her hold it there for a while. She said, she was like, that feels so much better. Just the heat feels better on a sty. And then when she woke up in the morning, it was gone. So yay. Yeah, herbs for the win. So she just let it, she just fell asleep with it over like this. And then I came up and I dipped it in again, refreshed it, and then replaced it on her eye when she was sleeping. So that's a really good way to use the eye compress. And if you have puffiness in your eyes, there are some tannins and there's a lot of anti-inflammatory compounds in the chamomile flowers, like these volatile oils. So if you have under eye puffiness, then you can also use a chamomile compress. And I would do a cool compress for that too. So you can basically put some ice in there or stick it in your refrigerator. And for really like red eyes, it depends. Like I usually use heat if I'm trying to bring something out, and cool if I'm trying to cool, especially if there's a lot of redness. I usually use cold. So for like conjunctivitis, things that are very red, I'm going to use a cool compress on the eyes. But something that's sort of hardened and that needs to get pulled out, then I'll use the warm to help extract. So that's really good to know. That is your eye compress number 3. Number 4 is to make a poultice for the skin. So let's say that you have a patch of eczema or psoriasis and it's starting to flare up and you don't want to go into a full-on flare up. So something you can do is you can take your chamomile flowers and throw some of them into a coffee grinder. So I have a coffee grinder in my apothecary kitchen that I don't use for coffee. I've got one for coffee and one for herbs. And that way my herbs don't all smell like coffee because the coffee oils will kind of stick to everything. So you might want to invest in a separate coffee bean grinder. And what I'll do is I'll just add some of my dried herbs to the grinder, grind it up into a powder. And that's a little easier, I've found, than using a blender, because with a blender, there's so much air and sometimes it'll like, and then like, you don't actually get a good grind. And you could also use a hand mortar and pestle. That's another great option for creating powders, but you want to grind it down fine. And then you add just a little bit of water. So add like a teaspoon of water at a time until you get a paste. And it needs to be not like a dry paste, but a slightly wet paste. And then you apply that over the eczema, over the psoriasis patch. You can put a bandage over it and then just very lightly wrap it. Let that sit for maybe about an hour. Take it off, add, use some cool water to rinse it off and just see how you're feeling. And you can reapply that as needed. And I know with people who get things like eczema, psoriasis, there's like a tingling, there's usually like a warning that a breakout's coming. So the earlier you can catch it, what I would recommend, honestly, is to do the chamomile compress and then drink a quart of nettles overnight, hot infusion. And you can listen to my video on herb of the month nettles to learn more about this plant, but it's one of my favorites and I've used it personally for my own eczema, and it always just flushes the body and brings histamine down, and it can stop that cycle from coming on again, which is pretty wonderful. And if you already have active eczema psoriasis, it's happening right now, it's not like you're too late. You can still apply the compress with the chamomile powder and water, and you can still drink the nettles, and it'll just speed up the rate at which all of that heals. Obviously, if you have burning, if you have like a really, really open case of eczema and it's very weepy, if you apply it and it like burns, like there's going to be a little tingling because of the oils, but if you're getting like burning, just take it off, rinse it off, and then maybe just use your cloth and soak it in a tea and do a tea compress over the eczema, because what you don't want is to further irritate that skin. What you're actually trying to do is help it heal. And chamomile is very good at helping the skin heal as an anti-inflammatory and as a wound agent. So you could also use that poultice for scrapes would be really good. Let's say you've got a child who's like running on the playground and they slip and they scrape their whole, their forearm, or they scrape their knees or shins. You can apply this and wrap it and bandage it, let it sit maybe an hour, take it off, rinse, and it should be pretty much healed up at that point. You won't need to reapply it. I wouldn't reapply it for scrapes. Just apply it once, let it do its work, and then let the body continue to heal. So that's number 4. And then number 5 is using it as an infused body oil, which is luxurious. It smells so good. It's very, very healing and therapeutic on multiple levels. And to make an infused oil is very, very simple. All you need is to have a carrier oil. I personally really like jojoba oil. I also like to use coconut, which is a little bit like it can, it'll get firm, but my favorite is jojoba oil. That's kind of like my go-to. And then if I don't have that, I'll use sunflower oil as another really nice, more neutral oil. And what you'll do is you'll just take, like, let's just say I wanted to use all of this chamomile in an infused oil. This is actually about the right amount, because you want to have a little gap at the top, because as the oils go into the dried flower, it's going to expand like a sponge. It's going to absorb the oils. So you want to fill up your jar about 3/4 full, and then just take that carrier oil, whatever one you choose, pour it in, fill it to the top. Make sure you cap it really tight, and then you're going to add it into a warm bath of water. So you can do a few different ways on your stove top. You can just heat some water on low. You don't want it to boil or simmer. You just want it low. And you can check the temperature of the oil with a meat thermometer or a cooking thermometer. You want it to be around between 120 and 140 for maybe 12 hours. And another way to achieve this is using a crock pot on the warm setting, not on low. Low seems to, for most crock pots to be too high. But if you turn it on warm, then and you add water into the crock pot, you can just set this into the crock pot water and then set your timer for 12 hours. You can stir it, shake it a few times throughout that process just to make sure the oil's getting in everything. And then guess what? This muslin cloth is then going to be another, I have cloths that I use just for my oils, because once you strain an oil through these cloths, they're always a little bit oily. So I've got the stash that I use for different things. So I wouldn't use this one. I would use one of my oily ones. And then I would pour that oil and herbs through this bag. I like to use a Pyrex, and then I just pour it in, squeeze out the oil into my Pyrex, and then I will pour that into either a dropper bottle or into a lotion bottle. And then it's something that you can use topically. That's it. And sometimes people like to add a little bit of essential oils. You could do a drop of lavender. I like cinnamon too for body stuff because it really helps with circulation. So maybe a drop of cinnamon oil. You really don't need much when it comes to essential oils, but just a drop or two. And then you can use that for eczema, psoriasis, rashes. You can use it for all of the skincare needs, for dry skin. You can use it to help with circulation. You can also use it as a muscle rub. So if you get like tenderness in your lower back, if you have arthritis in your knees or in your hips or in your ankles or feet, you can massage the chamomile oil into those areas. I just use it pretty much as like a body oil, and it works so nicely. But you could use it as a specific oil for specific parts too. It is also a really nice way to prepare your body for sleep. So if you're someone who has a difficult time falling asleep, especially, a really nice practice to do is an Ayurvedic body oiling practice where you heat the oil. And so I have like a little cast iron skillet. It's too far away for me to grab, but it's like this tiny, I found it at I think at like an antique store, but it was like $5, this teeny tiny cast iron skillet. I'll put it on my stove, pour some of my oil in, get it just warm enough to where it's a little warmer than your body temperature. Bring it into the bathroom. And then I'll body oil from head to toe and really rub it in. Let it sit for just like a minute or two while you're getting your bath ready or your shower ready. And then take a shower and gently rinse off with warm water or get into a warm bath and just rub the oil. It'll come off. Some of it will stay, which is what you want, but then also some of it will come off, and then you can towel dry and go to bed. And that's a really great way, especially if you have nervousness about falling asleep or nervous anxiety or difficulty with your mind. It's in Ayurveda, they use it as a vata, like body oiling is a very good remedy for vata types. And then when you add in the herb, it's like double medicine for people who are just a little bit more wiry, anxious, nervous by temperament. And that's just, everyone's wired a little different. And I found that chamomile and body oiling are really nice herbs and a really nice practice for people that have that more nervous temperament. So that's it for today. I would love to hear your comments, your feedback. Are there other ways that you use chamomile? I mean, the only way I didn't mention, which is like kind of obvious, but is worth mentioning, is in a vase when it's in season and you're growing it. Another wonderful way to have chamomile around is you just cut it, clip it, put it in your vase, and it makes a beautiful little centerpiece to keep your workspace or your table or eating spaces a little bit cheery and also relaxed. So thank you again. I hope to see some of you here in Minnesota if you're local at some of my fall events. Also stay tuned. We have our Kickstarter that will be launching in November, where you can get some great discounts on my herbal course and my husband's astrology courses. So more information will be rolling out in the fall. And as always, if you have questions or comments, if you have a topic you'd like for me to cover, please write them in the comments section. And I have a list that's going with your requests, and I promise I will get to it, if not in the next one, in the next few. So I always love to hear what it is you're interested in. So thanks for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful day.